if your perfect remedy for bad luck had fur, paws, and a fluffy tail?
In this video, we're going to uncover how your pet could be your secret planetary healer.
So in Vedic astrology, pets are often considered potential remedies for mitigating negative effects of a birth chart. And that's due to their ability to influence the energies that are associated with specific planets.
Each planet in Vedic astrology governs certain qualities, energies, and aspects of life. These are often referred to in Sanskrit as karakattvas, which means significations. So every planet is going to have a list of many different things that it signifies, and if you think about everything in the entire world, no matter what it is going to fall into one or another of these planetary lists of significations. So pets are linked to planets based on their traits.
So we'll start with dogs. Dogs are often associated with Ketu, and Ketu represents spirituality, detachment. Feeding or caring for dogs can actually pacify some of Ketu's disruptive effects, like directionlessness, because of course Ketu doesn't have a head, maybe a spiritual disconnection, if you have trouble from enemies. This is one of the most common remedies recommended to pacify an ill-placed Ketu, and that's taking care of a dog. Dogs in general represent unwavering loyalty and devotion, and they are seen as embodiments of selfless service. And dogs are even seen as guardians against malevolent spirits because they're believed to have the ability to sense those negative energies. That's why people always say dogs have like the sixth sense. So they can sense these negative energies, these negative spirits, and their barking actually is thought to ward off negative energies.
One thing that's really interesting about this is there is a Vasu text, a classical text on Vastu, which is kind of like a Vedic form of feng shui. Feng shui and Vastu are actually extremely similar in a lot of ways. So there's a Vastu text called Vishwakarma Prakash, which actually states that a Vastu dosha, or a defect in the Vastu of a space, so a negative aspect there, which means that you probably shouldn't be living there, is present when pets make strange noises during the night. So I think what this text is implying when it's saying that you're living in a particular house and your dog or any other kind of pet is making unusual noises in the middle of the night, I think what it's implying is that there are some kind of ghosts or malevolent spirits or something going on in that place that is probably going to cause some trouble for you if you stay there. So pets can be seen as a way to divine whether or not the Vastu is good or not in a particular place. So cats. Cats in Vedic astrology are often considered linked to Rahu, which represents illusion and mystery. Caring for cats can calm Rahu's chaotic influence, reducing confusion, deception, or overambition. Cats are thought to neutralize chaotic or deceptive spiritual influences and act in a way as psychic shields.
Which makes sense because I think cats are extremely mysterious. So now if we take a look at cows, cows are actually linked to both Venus and the moon. So Venus represents abundance and love, and the moon is a nurturing planet that represents our emotions. So when you take care of a cow in any sort of way, that can be seen as a traditional remedy for strengthening Venus, especially for your relationships and wealth. Or it can soothe any moon-related emotional instability.
So in Vedic astrology, Mercury is said to be connected to birds, especially the ones that are very vocal. So cuckoo birds or parrots can be seen as heavily linked to the planet Mercury. And Mercury represents communication, intellect, and decision-making ability. So keeping or feeding these kinds of birds can enhance Mercury's positive effects, which could counter speech issues or intellectual blocks. And if you think about it, it's really easy to kind of see the Mercury in a parrot, for example, because Mercury is a mimic. Right? And Mercury also represents green. I think a lot of parrots are
and
green.
Talking.
It's not universal. And talking. Speech is represented by Mercury. So it's a bird that can talk, and the way that it talks is it listens to what you say and repeats it back to you over and over again. So that's very, very mercurial.
Yeah, and they're very smart too.
Yep.
These kinds of birds, which Mercury represents intelligence to an extent too.
Yep.
So if we look at fish, according to the Vedic text Phaladeepika, fish are linked also to the moon. Again, emotions, mental tranquility. So if you feed fish, watch them swim in an aquarium, that can really calm the mind and soothe unsettled emotions. And I think in general, people that keep fish tanks at home or like to visit aquariums, they generally do that as a calming technique for their mind. Something about, the beauty of the colorful fish swimming around. It is very relaxing.
Yeah, the sound of the water and quiet, and it's all very slow.
Yeah, and in Vastu, without getting into any of that, keeping a fish tank in a very specific area is actually really good Vastu as well. So for Saturn afflictions, of course, Saturn can represent delays, hardships, humiliation, all kinds of things. A common remedy that's recommended by Vedic astrologers is to take care of black dogs, and that's because dogs are also related to Saturn in a way, and the color black is related to Saturn. So to be more specific, a black dog, or crows, as Saturn rules those creatures. So if you ever are in the vicinity of crows, maybe feeding them.
So one thing that that we often notice with these planetary significations and remedies that I think a lot of astrologers fail to mention is that you would not even really have to see your own birth chart to understand what planet is ruling the affliction that you might be experiencing that you want to remedy. So, for example, Saturn, representing delays, hardships, or humiliation, as well as other things that we don't like. If you're experiencing that, in most cases, that's going to be related to Saturn in some way in your birth chart, or Saturn can be said to be the planet which is giving you those effects. So an astrologer would not necessarily even have to see your birth chart to be able to tell you that taking care of a black dog would be good for you if you're experiencing these negative effects. Obviously, it can be very good to get a more in-depth understanding of your own birth chart and what might really be going on with all the details of the different planetary positions. But this is something that I think a lot of astrologers fail to mention to people, probably because they probably want people to feel dependent on getting a reading. So they probably don't say that. So before we move on, there are a few more planetary associations with animals that we've pulled from classical texts. This is not a all-encompassing list, but these are some that were pulled, especially from Phaladeepika, as well as a text called Brihat Samhita. So the sun can be said to represent tigers and lions. The moon can be said to represent rabbits. One thing that's interesting about this is if someone has the moon representing enemies in some way in their life, like the moon in the 6th house or the moon as the 6th lord, they may have a bad relationship with a rabbit at some point. So if someone has this position and then they get a rabbit as a pet, it could be like a bad rabbit, or a rabbit that bites them or something, or that they don't like, or the person might just be like, ugh, I don't like rabbits. You could also use these significations to understand what's going on in a person's birth chart. Like if someone is the type of person who's just like, ugh, I hate cats. I hate cats. Or some people are afraid of dogs. You can then take that and say, okay, I'm going to look at this person's Rahu placement, or I'm going to look at this person's Ketu placement. What's going on? Why do they hate this particular thing related to this planet? It can give you a lot of clues about their birth chart. So Mars can be said to represent goats, sheep, roosters, monkeys. And if you think about monkeys are considered very tamasic, meaning very in the mode of ignorance, and they steal. And Mars represents stealing and thievery of any kind, and so monkeys steal. So you can see why they might be connected to Mars.
Yeah.
Jupiter can be said to be connected to horses, pigeons, or swans. And for horses, you can think about Sagittarius, which is that sort of centaur figure.
Well, even with the lions,
the Lion King,
the Lion King. So the sun rules the sign of Leo, which is represented by a lion, and then with Mars and the goat sheep, Mars rules Aries, which is represented by a ram. So everything is always full circle here.
So many connections.
Connections.
Yeah.
No such thing as coinkydinks.
So Venus can be said to represent peacocks. And what is it when someone is dressing up in really nice clothing and showing off a lot with how their appearance looks to everyone else, which are all things related to Venus? They call that peacocking.
Yes.
Right? So Saturn can be said to represent buffalo, and in Vedic traditions, buffalo are said again to be tamasic, and Saturn is a tamasic planet, so that makes a lot of sense. Rahu is connected to donkeys and serpents.
Because Rahu is a serpent.
Rahu is a serpent. And Ketu can be said to be connected to insects of any kind or owls.
So why do these pet remedies work? Well, for one, they are some type of karmic purification. Vedic philosophy emphasizes selfless service to balance negative karma. We've talked about that a lot. So when you care for a pet, especially if it's a stray or a rescue from a shelter, it's seen as an act of compassion, and that can generate positive karma. And you have to give that's a responsibility. You have to be a little selfless. You have to give your time, your energy. So, that's emphasizing that service. This can reduce the impact of malefic planets or any past life debts as well.
So these remedies can also activate houses in the birth chart. So specific houses in a birth chart govern different areas of life. And keeping pets can activate these houses, especially the 6th house, in a very positive way. Caring for animals will strengthen the 6th house of your birth chart because, again, it's service and it's every single day. It's your daily routine. You have to make sure that you fed the dog or you fed the cat or you've re-upped the food or put the fish food in the tank or whatever it is. And this can mitigate negative effects of the 6th house, such as health issues or enemies or debts or litigations, things like that. So animals associated with planets act in a way as conduits for offering devotion or service to that planet. This can appease the planet and calm down any negative effects that it may be giving. So the animal, because it's represented by that planet, the planet kind of sees it as something that it is responsible for or that it governs. And so when you interact in a very positive way with that thing, the planet feels it because the planet is connected to that particular animal. So that's how that works. So just a quick warning about pets as remedies. Remedies work best when performed with genuine compassion and not as a mechanical ritual. So do not get a pet if you actually don't want to care for one. There are all kinds of other remedies that you can do for various planets that have nothing to do with animals or other living entities in general. You can sit and do mantras. You can do all kinds of different things that will appease a planet that don't have to involve having a pet. This is for people that are naturally inclined to have pets or care for animals already. So if your pet is miserable as a result of you just getting a pet because it's supposed to be a good planetary remedy, but then you don't actually take care of it, this is actually going to worsen the bad effects that you were trying to remedy, because you're kind of really pissing off that planet if you're doing that.
Yeah, and it's also just...
It's making a lot of bad karma. There's no reason to have a pet if you can't take care of it and make it really happy.
There is a very unique relationship between dogs and Bhairav. So Bhairav is a fierce manifestation of Shiva, which is mentioned in the Shiva Purana, which he is associated with protection, time, destruction of negativity, and spiritual liberation. And in ancient Vedic texts, dogs hold significant spiritual and symbolic importance in relation to Bhairav. Dogs are actually considered the sacred companion of Bhairav. So whenever you see an image of him, you're going to see him surrounded by dogs. And that's because also they serve as his vehicle or mount.
So dogs are known for their loyalty and vigilance, and they symbolize the protective and watchful nature of Bhairav, who protects devotees from all kinds of dangerous situations. It is said that when you meditate with Bhairav mantras, like Om Bhairavai Namaha, dogs will start to be drawn toward you because they naturally gravitate toward the energy of Bhairav. And Bhairav is pleased when dogs are treated with love and respect. In Vedic astrology, Bhairav, especially in his original form as Kal Bhairav, is linked to the planet Saturn, or Shani, who governs karma, time, discipline, and challenges. Bhairav mantras can act as one of the most powerful remedies for Saturn and can help one overcome hardships, trouble from enemies, obstacles in one's work, evil eye from envious people, or even exorcise evil spirits who are causing trouble in your space. And if you're interacting with dogs a lot, or you have dogs, doing Bhairav mantras is definitely going to be something that improves your relationship with them. They're going to enjoy your company a lot more, and Bhairav is also pleased by you keeping that dog very happy.
So we really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're a pet lover, definitely consider a pet as a remedy for any ailments in your chart. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like. And I wanted to mention, we actually, a long time ago, before we actually started talking to you through a camera, we made a really cool video about dogs and how they protect us. So we're gonna link it to this description, but we won't be on camera, so you can't see our lovely faces. But it's a great video specifically about dogs, spirituality. So check it out. It's really fun, and we'll see you next time.